today, Franco. And then we have our Fonny, Stephan James. So I actually saw it today as well at 10:30 in the morning, and instead of looking at the link that they sent me, I went and paid for a ticket because I wanted to see it on the big screen like you guys. And it was worth every darn penny. And it was just incredible to see the love, and not only that, the tone, the style, the incredible characters. I feel like no matter how big or small each role was, I remembered everyone. And it was just so well put together. And I just want to know, well, thanks for having me, guys. How did you guys get involved with the project? Each one can go down the line.
Well, I think first I should just say our composer is back there, Nicholas Bertel. Can you get that? Yeah, Nicholas.
Incredible.
Come sit up here, man.
This extra chair. You're welcome. Yes. Yes.
Welcome. So how did I find out about the film? I've been a big fan of Barry Jenkins for a while now, and I sort of put it out to the earth that I wanted to work with him. I didn't realize it would be this soon, so when I got this call that he was, making his follow-up to Moonlight if Beale Street could talk, I fell in love with the role of Fonny almost immediately. And I sent him a few scenes. I asked him if he would meet me for lunch, and much to my surprise, he agreed. And so we sat down, we had lunch, and he explained to me sort of the film that he wanted to make. And at that point, I don't think he was totally convinced that I was Fonny, but I made it a point to say I wouldn't leave the restaurant until he was convinced. And yeah, I told him that I would tape every scene in the book, every scene in the screenplay if he would let me, but luckily enough, he didn't make me do that. Sent him a couple more scenes, and then he offered me the role, and ever since then, it's just been incredible. I did a chemistry read with KiKi, and we sort of just went from there.
The chemistry was there.
Yeah, I got a call from my agent, and they said, Barry Jenkins is interested in you for a role in his new movie, and I said, are you sure? And then I got on the phone with Barry, and I basically spent the whole call trying to convince him not to cast me in his movie. I think just I don't know, I'm pretty hard on myself, and maybe I just didn't feel worthy or something, but don't get me wrong, I was so excited to be a part of this, and it just, most people know me for the comedies I've been in, and I love those movies, but, I want to keep pushing myself. I want to keep trying new things, and you need someone like Barry Jenkins to be like, yes, that's my guy, even if everyone else is like, you want the dude from fucking Neighbors who's doing De Niro impersonations? But I thank Barry for taking a chance on me, and I hope to keep doing new things.
For me, it actually started with one of my friends who was auditioning for the role of Fonny. He thought that I would be great as his reader for his audition, reading the role of Tish. So that's how I found out the film was being cast, but that was not too long after I had just moved to LA, and so I didn't have representation out there myself. And so it wasn't until a couple weeks after helping my friend that I was able to get my own representation in LA, and then I was able to submit my own tape. And then after that, I was in New York doing the chemistry read with Stephan, who had already been cast. And then Barry was calling me 9 a.m., waking me up to tell me that I got the part.
Jeremy and Dee Dee, so I guess a kind of different question. What made you actually want to do this film besides Barry, or was it Barry? And was that before or after you guys actually got the rights to do it from the Baldwin estate?
Well, to be honest, Barry had been pursuing the rights with his company Pascal, who produced the movie with us. We were massive fans of Medicine for Melancholy. Through that, got involved in producing Moonlight. Those who haven't seen Medicine for Melancholy, Barry's first film, highly recommend you check it out. Hopefully by now more people have seen that film. And then we, when this kind of became clearly the next film Barry was going to pursue, we really badly wanted to be involved because Dee Dee and I were huge fans of not just Barry, but James Baldwin. James Baldwin to us is some kind of a god. A very prophetic person, a person that defies categorization, that is, somebody that really stands for so much and whose influence and whose power just grows with time rather than diminishing. What else?
That was good. We've been fans of Barry's forever, and then reunited with him in Telluride, where he sort of wrapped his arms around us when we were screening 12 Years a Slave for the very first time, and we were scared. And we found a friend, and we said, "What are you doing? We've lost touch since you've made your last movie." And he said, "Well, I've written these 2 scripts. And they were Moonlight and Beale Street." But really, if Barry said, "I want to make the phone book," we'd say, "Great. Where do you want to start?" And here are the people who bring it alive, and we're just lucky.
Very, very lucky. Okay, so the score is incredible. There is one scene that was, all of the scenes were impactful, but like the scene with Brian, Tyree, and our Fonny here at the table was just, I think my mom and I were like tearing. It was just incredible. It said so much, and it was such a light score. It wasn't in your face. It was beautiful. What was your inspiration for that?
Well, Barry is such an inspiring person, and I feel that film music is one of those things where it's so abstract in some sense, and I think it's never really clear what is the sound of a movie. So Barry and I we go on a journey together where we're experimenting. We work really closely together. We try things out. Barry's first instinct was actually, he said to me he was hearing brass and horns in his mind. And so I started experimenting with trumpets and flugelhorns and French horns and cornet, and actually wrote a piece of music, and I played it for him. We put it up against some of the early scenes in the film, and he loved the music, but it was missing something, and we discovered that it was missing strings. And so, as I started bringing strings into the picture, that really it sort of came to symbolize love for us, because the film deals with so many different kinds of love, and I think the strings in their evolutions represent those different kinds of love. And that scene with Daniel and Fonny that you were talking about, that was actually a breakthrough for us, where there's Miles Davis's Blue and Green playing on the record player, and that scene really represents kind of the parallel universe of the music, where I actually took some of the cellos from the piece where Tish and Fonny are first making love, and I bent them and distorted them. Barry was telling me, how can we almost like break this sound? And that sort of bent and distorted sound came to represent injustice.
Okay, love that. So Tish and Fonny have incredible chemistry, and how did you guys create that as artists? How did you guys make yourselves comfortable with it? This is your first film, KiKi Layne, right? Beautiful. How did that happen? How did the chemistry? Was it just? I feel like chemistry is hard to create. You either have it or you don't. What did you guys do to make it happen even more? Because I'm sure when you met, the chemistry, you either have it or you don't. That's what I believe.
Well, we didn't have any rehearsal time. We just really had to dive into it. I think a big part of it was just our commitment to really telling this story and, you know, doing whatever it took to serve it best. I mean, Tish and Fonny, their love, it is the story, and so we knew we had to do right by that. And so it definitely meant, you know, being open and being vulnerable in a way that, you know, definitely with a stranger definitely make you uncomfortable. Definitely had those moments. But thankfully, Barry, you know, he's so patient and attentive and gentle that he really created an environment that it was comfortable for us to go to those places. And I don't think it doesn't only just show between Tish and Fonny. I think it shows throughout the entire cast, this chemistry that we were able to develop. You know, we just really came in as artists who really wanted to do right by James Baldwin and right by Barry Jenkins. And so we were willing to just dive in, you know, and this really just letting it all out their way. So, you know, like all the relationships between, you know, we built with, you know, all these other actors, Colman, Regina, Teyonah, like Brian, like we really all were committed to doing whatever it took to serve this story.
Okay. So I think every character in this film mattered, and what I loved about it, even the characters that weren't on screen for a lot of time all made sense. So Dave, I wanted to ask you something that struck me about your character. You said it was super memorable. You talk about love, and you said, you know, it's what separates us from them. So, and obviously you played a Jewish character. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of two things that really define this character. The first is, I say a line, I'm just my mother's son. Sometimes that's all that makes a difference between us and them. And, you know, it's a simple statement, but I think it says a lot. I think he's basically implying, like, that he was raised by a loving mother, and he was raised the right way, and that allowed him to kind of, you know, approach life with an open mind and empathy for others. And then the second thing that defines the character is the fact that he's the type of person who wears socks with sandals. And I don't know what that says, but it speaks volumes. But no, I think it really just that one line kind of informs the whole character. And, I mean,
I did catch the socks with the sandals.
I'll say literally the one note Barry gave me, we did a couple takes, and it's hard sometimes when you come in and you're literally there for a day and you're trying to find the rhythm of everything. And so after a few takes, he came over and he was just like, hey, play this as if your mom has passed away. She's not around anymore. And just like such a simple note, it just kind of grounded everything and gave it a little bit more weight. And that's just like, you know, again, I was there for a day and a half, but Barry's, I mean, I learned a lot from him, and he was one of these things I was really nervous going to set and anxious just because I wanted to just be there with everyone and not fuck up the movie, and you realize once you step on that set, he's just so confident and comfortable and knows exactly what he wants, and it was one of the more relaxing, easygoing sets I've ever been on. And when you have that feeling as an actor, you feel like you can take risks, and knowing that no matter what you do, no one's judging you, you can do it as many times as you want. So
Gotcha. That was great. How did you, okay, so you were kind of also a thread through every character, but you showed vulnerability, you showed an overwhelming amount of love, but you also showed strength, and you just showed so much range. Can you talk more about that? Because it was so beautiful to see your charm, when you smiled, like I smiled with you, I was like, oh my God, he's amazing. Oh wait, you're engaged. You know, like there was something about you that lit up the screen every time you were on there, and it was different. For everybody you talked to, like your friend, his Spanish friend, and when she was talking about you, and just every moment was just a moment. So, can you talk more about that?
Yeah, I think that, I think that for me, this film was like a big balancing act. You get to see Fonny in like his highest of highs and then his lowest of lows, the most tumultuous sort of dark moments in his life. And for me, I think that the biggest thing was understanding just the level of humanity that I wanted to bring to Fonny. I think that there's so many Fonnies in this world. There's a million Fonnies. And we never get to see films made about Fonnies. We never get to see documentaries about Fonnies. We never really get to see what these guys are really like, their humanity. The fact that they love people, the fact that they have people who love them back, they have families and unborn children, these lights about to come into the world. And for me, it meant a lot to just, give this guy a soul. Give a voice to the voiceless. There's so many voiceless young men who are experiencing the same thing as Fonny. I actually based Fonny off of a young man named Khalif Browder, who in 2010 was, in 2010 he was charged with petty theft of a backpack, a crime that he didn't commit. And he was forced to spend 3 years on Rikers Island while he was awaiting trial, 2.5 of which he spent in solitary confinement. And for me, just hearing this story, it broke me to my core to have to look this young man in the eyes, 16-year-old boy. And you gotta think about, how a grown man would handle a situation like this, much less a 16-year-old boy. And it killed me to my core to have to, I didn't have to see all the things he was going through in prison, but to see his face and to look into his eyes, that to me was enough. And I just felt like if I brought some level of that consciousness, that psychology rather, to my character, to Fonny, then I would be doing him justice and doing so many other young men across this country who are sort of going through the same ordeal, that same justice. But at the core of it, this is a love story. I mean, I think it's incredible that Baldwin has all these, he speaks to all these social injustices and things of that nature. But at the core of it, this is a love story, and Fonny is deeply, deeply sentimental. He's an artist, he's a craftsman, and he finds the beauty in sort of the little things in life. And for me, it was I just wanted to encapsulate this being, just show him as whole, just show him as a person, like these guys are real people.
Yes. So James Baldwin, obviously, he constantly throughout his life uncovered systemic injustices, and within American society, he took a mirror and said, look at yourself, and these are the problems. How do you feel like James Baldwin has affected, or his words have affected today? Anybody? Obviously, still stand.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was about to say. I'm like, the film and the book it's based in the early 70s. That's when it was written, but all of these same issues are still issues that we are dealing with today. Unfortunately, nothing much has really changed. And I mean, and that's something that, stories like this force us to really acknowledge and, be made more aware of, like, seriously, nothing has really changed. And so, I mean, speaks to the power of Baldwin, his ability, to speak about these things in such a way that it really, has this timelessness to it, but it also speaks to, I mean, that's a very painful thing, that it is still the exact same thing, these exact same situations, these people, like, we're playing these fictional characters, but like Steph was saying, they are real. There are real Tishes, there are real Fonnies, and Baldwin has always had an ability to speak to, those uncomfortable truths, but they are truths, and are still very much so standing just the same.
I think Baldwin would be proud of you guys. Yeah. So wait, how was it shooting in Harlem? I mean, I'm from New York, and I lived in Harlem was the last stop before I came to LA. So how was it?
I will say this, folks in New York, they're really busy. And so sometimes when we were shooting exteriors, they would just walk through the shots.
Oh yeah, they don't care.
And it's supposed to be the 1970s, but they got Beats headphones on. So That's probably one of the most memorable things I remember about shooting in Harlem.
I mean, it was so dope. And I mean, but we felt so much love too. Like, you know, if anybody came up, like, oh, what y'all working on? And, you know, once we told them, like, I mean, New York, especially Harlem, I mean, that's Baldwin's home. And people definitely showed us a lot of love for that. And even when we took the film, you know, back to Harlem to premiere at the Apollo, felt so much love. Like, that was just such a special night. And yeah, and I mean, being in New York when you're working, and you got a little bit of money, it's a very great experience.
Right. I guess one of the, anybody else?
I do remember the shot that kind of opens the film, the beautiful crane shot down Tish and Fonny, KiKi and Stephan. For, you know, that was an incredibly beautiful day. You guys probably remember the weather was perfect. Like the universe lined up behind, giving that couple that exact, are you ready for this? It just couldn't have been more perfect. And of course, that's the idealized state of Nick's music and everything that you could want. That's a lovely memory that I have.
It's a beautiful shot. It sets the tone for the entire film. So there's this beautiful silent film that was recently discovered that I think her name's St. Subtle and Gertie Brown, that University of Chicago uncovered, where it was a silent film in 1898 where this couple is just showing affection and kissing. It's like the only one during that time, because it was like a stereotype of what was out there when we were in a silent film. It wasn't that. So the silent film is literally this Black couple who's just happy and like they kiss. And a lot of people, especially on Twitter and all these things, are really excited about that, because it's saying we existed. We weren't just, it wasn't just this whole struggle thing. And I think what this film is saying is we exist, we're here, we're in love, we want children, we have children, look at my humanity. And I think that's what you guys did. You guys showed a love story. What was it like to just see Black people loving each other and wanting normal things, obviously with specificity, with the families and you know, all those things, because I definitely saw some church women in my family in that film. Amen. You know, and some judgment. But like, what was that like to just have that and it not be like a thing, but it was just what it was?
Yeah, I think the beautiful thing about Baldwin, and actually the same is true of Barry Jenkins, is they're just beautiful descriptors of love. You know, they can describe love and tragedy and pain and heartbreak, you know, all in this sort of like weirdly poetic way. And I think for me and KiKi, you know, KiKi was saying we didn't have a whole ton of time to rehearse or anything, but we just gained this sense of like comfortability with each other, like we were just able to be still and silent in front of each other for long periods of times. Like we didn't have to say anything, it didn't have to be awkward. And you know, I think that the little nuances in the way that they make love. The Black love is this idea that Black love like the love between Tish and Fonny is inexistent, because we don't get to see it like this. We never get to see it like this. And so, you know, for me, like, after I read the screenplay and read the novel, the next thing I read was Romeo and Juliet, because this really reminded me of that, like this deep love between, like, not even lovers, but like true soulmates. Like these guys were like truly made for each other. And to see that type of love, you know, the pure type of love, the kind of love that Barry Jenkins allows to just sort of have its moment. You know, he doesn't rush in, and, you know, it's not kissing and then all of a sudden, you know, we're both naked and we're right getting into it. It's like, we're gonna take time and I'm gonna undress you slowly and I'm gonna check in with you. You know, I'm gonna look you into your eyes, and there's all this nonverbal sort of communication that shows deep, true love and like care for the person you're doing this with. And you know, those little nuances, that attention to detail, I think that's what I really appreciated, to be able to see that, yes, we do make love like this, we love like this, and you know, I don't know. To me, it's a revolutionary in a way because we just don't get to see it, and how powerful, of a message this is for young people to see, Black people, white people, anybody to really sit down and watch that and know that that's real, that exists within us. We don't get to see it too much, so it's an incredible thing for us and for this film.
By the way, that silent film, I think somebody put the music of Beale Street in that 1898 film. Yeah, it's like a 30-second clip, but it's gorgeous and beautiful. I think one of my last questions, which I'm usually leery to ask because I usually am like, well, I want the audience to take away whatever they want to take away from it. You don't tell people what to take away, but I'm gonna ask you because I'm on the other side. What did you guys take away from this? Like, what did you guys get from this? And what would you guys like an audience to not feel, but just, what's the thing that you hope that is expressed, that jumps off the screen for them?
Well, I think Baldwin just, he intended to give people hope with this film, I think above all, and the reason why it works so well today is because we can really use this type of hope and this type of love in today's world, where these issues are more prevalent than they have really ever been. All these issues of like false imprisonment and mass incarceration, they've never been more prevalent. And I think that, this being rooted in what's really truly a love story, I think that it just shows what, as cliche as it sounds, it just shows what the power of love can get you through. Like, I think that the only reason why, Fonny and Tish and their 4 or 5-year-old son is sitting down at that table in the last scene of the film is for love. And that all happens because of this deep love that they have for each other, knowing that they were gonna raise this child and that they were gonna see themselves through despite their circumstances. So honestly, I just think, Baldwin wanted to show people what love looks like.
My mom was very worried about you at the end. She was in the car like, but when is he gonna get out? I'm like, Mom, I don't know. She's like, the child is 4, so he's already been in there for 4 years. And so, anyway, see you guys. But congratulations on your Golden Globe nomination. Please know that we are all rooting for you, and this film, I have to say, was absolutely stunning, and it made me feel something, and it made me, I literally went and bought like all of James Baldwin. I had like 2, but I bought like everything. And just thank you for allowing me to talk to you guys and be on the other side. Thank you guys.